You studied longer than anyone else in that class. You read it twice, made the notes, set 3 alarms, lay in bed running through it in your head until 2 a.m. Not because you were unprepared, but because your brain refused to accept that you were prepared enough. And then you walked into that exam, that presentation, that moment, and the anxiety showed up anyway, like it always does. Like it doesn't care how hard you worked. Today on Mentra Psychology, we're breaking down the psychology of the anxious student. And by the time this video ends, you're going to understand your own mind in a way your entire academic career never gave you the tools to do. Stay with me. Let's start by dismantling the story you've been told. Because the story the academic system tells about the anxious student is this: you have the ability, you just need to manage your nerves. Get better at test taking, speak up more in class, stop overthinking, push through it. As if anxiety is a habit, as if it's a discipline problem dressed up in emotional language. That story is wrong, and it has quietly done more damage to more capable minds than any curriculum failure, any underfunded school, or any bad teacher ever could. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Academic anxiety isn't a weakness layered on top of intelligence. In the psychology of the anxious student, anxiety and intelligence are deeply, biologically intertwined. The research doesn't just suggest a correlation, it points to something far more specific and far more validating than anyone in your academic career ever told you. The anxious student doesn't underperform because they lack capability. The anxious student underperforms because their brain is running a program so sophisticated, so sensitive, so attuned to threat and consequence, that the very system designed to measure intelligence becomes the trigger that shuts it down. You weren't failing the system was failing to understand you. And there is a profound, science-backed difference between those two things. So if you've ever frozen in an exam you were ready for, welcome. If you've ever sat in a classroom with the answer forming perfectly in your mind, felt the teacher's eyes land on you, and watched every word dissolve before it could reach your mouth, welcome. If you've ever been called too sensitive, too much in your head, or your own worst enemy by someone who is supposed to be in your corner, welcome. You're in the right place, and you're about to feel something the psychology of your entire academic experience almost never gave you: a real explanation. Not a pep talk, not another well-meaning adult telling you to just believe in yourself, as if belief was the thing standing between you and the moment where everything you knew went somewhere you couldn't reach. Because the anxious student experience isn't just nervousness. It's a specific, neurologically documented pattern that lives in the body before it ever reaches the mind. It's being the most prepared person in the room and still feeling like the least qualified. It's carrying a version of yourself, curious, capable, full of ideas, that the academic environment has never once given you the conditions to fully show. That version isn't hiding because it doesn't exist. It's hiding because the environment was never built for the way your mind works. And today, that changes. Today, on Mentra Psychology, we're breaking down the psychology of the anxious student. Not the version that ends with a breathing exercise. The real psychology. The neuroscience. The hidden architecture underneath a mind that looks like it's underperforming, but is actually operating under a level of internal pressure most people in that classroom will never understand. Because here's what the academic conversation always gets wrong. It treats anxiety as the obstacle. Remove the nerves, the thinking goes, and the capable student underneath finally shows up. But that framing misses something fundamental.
The anxiety and the intelligence are not separate. They are products of the same wiring.
A nervous system so finely tuned, so aware of consequence and meaning, that the standard academic system was never designed to receive it. Society calls the anxious student a problem to be managed. Science calls the anxious student something else entirely. You were never the problem. You were always the point. Here's where the psychology of the anxious student gets fascinating. There's a concept called the Yerkes-Dodson Law, and it reveals something about anxiety and performance that nobody ever put on a poster in your school hallway. Performance doesn't improve as pressure decreases. It follows a curve. Too little pressure and the mind is disengaged. Too much and it shuts down. But right in the middle, that narrow, almost impossible band, is where peak performance lives. The anxious student doesn't live in that middle. Their nervous system rockets past it before the exam even starts. And here's the part that should change the way you see yourself entirely. Research shows that students with high anxiety actually have more neural activity in their prefrontal cortex, the brain's thinking center, than their less anxious peers. Not less, more. The anxious student isn't thinking too little. They're thinking too much, too fast, all at once. That's not a deficit. That's an overclocked engine in a car built for a different road entirely. But neuroscience only tells half the story. Psychologists have identified something called sensory processing sensitivity, a trait found in roughly 20% of the population. Highly sensitive students don't just feel more, they process more. Every social cue, every teacher's tone, every peer's reaction runs through a nervous system that treats information like it matters deeply. Because to the anxious student, it does. That sensitivity isn't weakness. It's the same wiring that makes anxious students more empathetic, more observant, and more creative than almost anyone else in that room. The classroom just never figured out how to grade it. And here's the psychological truth that most academics never talk about. A study from the University of London found that students with higher anxiety scores consistently demonstrated stronger performance on complex, creative problem-solving tasks than their calmer peers, once removed from high-stakes testing environments. Read that again. The anxious student wasn't less capable. They were being measured in the wrong conditions. Charles Darwin was described by his own teachers as unremarkable. Albert Einstein didn't speak fluently until age 4. The system missed them both. It may have been missing you too. Now, let's talk about who built the system that's been grading you. Standardized testing was designed in the early 20th century to sort factory workers, not to measure human potential. Timed exams were built for speed, not depth. Raise your hand culture rewards the loudest voice, not the sharpest mind. The anxious student was never failing the system. The system was never built for the anxious student. Your competition was never the student who finished first. Your competition is the version of you that almost stopped believing. Now, honesty matters here. Anxiety that goes unaddressed doesn't always transform into a superpower. For some anxious students, it becomes avoidance, isolation, burnout. If your anxiety is stopping you from showing up entirely, that deserves real support, not just reframing. The goal isn't to romanticize the struggle. It's to make sure you never confuse your wiring for your ceiling. The anxious student who finally understands their psychology doesn't just survive the classroom. They redefine what intelligence looks like inside it. They're the ones who notice what others miss, who ask the question nobody else thought to ask, who feel the weight of ideas in a way that turns into art, research, advocacy, and leadership. That's not anxiety holding you back. That's depth, waiting for the right environment. Psychologists call it anxiety, but on Mentra Psychology, we call it the cost of caring deeply in a system that was never built to recognize it. You weren't too sensitive. You weren't too much. You were always exactly enough, just placed in the wrong conditions. The anxious student doesn't need to be fixed. The anxious student needs to be understood, starting today with themselves. Do you identify as an anxious student? Or did someone come to mind while watching this? Drop it in the comments. This community was built for exactly that conversation. If this video found you at the right moment, subscribe, because the next video goes even deeper into the psychology of minds that were built differently. If this one resonated, that one will hit harder. Click it. You'll understand why.